Okay, so within our very first video, PowerPoint, whatever you want to call it here, we're going to go over the New World. So, up until this point in world history, you guys have covered explorers and discovery and all of that stuff. Well, now we're going to go back to the beginning of American history and why the Europeans decided to come to this new world and get more land. Okay, so now we're going to take you back all the way to sixth grade. So think back a little bit further. And why did the Europeans come to the New World, or why did they, in the first place, even look for new land? You've got your three G's. Remember those? Gold, God, and glory. So within gold, you're looking for new markets for trade, finding new materials, all that stuff. And also simply finding gold. That was such a key commodity at the time. We really, really were looking for it. Then you've got God. You've got this desire to spread Christianity. If you think back to World II last year and how everybody was fighting over where to get land so that they could all spread God. And there was that whole treaty that the Pope decided and split up. Spain, you can go this way. Portugal, you can go the other way. Well, everybody was still trying to spread Christianity and get natives or savages to join Christianity and believe in God. And then your third G, you've got glory. The more land you have, the more power you have. So that's very, very important to a lot of these leaders. Think about it during this time period. You have a lot of these monarchies. They're all searching for more land. Look at Europe. Europe is kind of tiny. So they're looking, hey, we've been here for a long time. We really want to stretch out and get more land so that we can get more resources, more space to live. Next, who was exploring the Americas? Largely you have Spain, France, and England. Those are our major, major powers during this time period. Portugal kind of went towards Africa. Okay, in Spain. In the 1500s, Spain sent conquerors in search of gold. Gold was very, very important to these monarchs at this time because A, gold equals money. B, gold is a status symbol. Think about jewelry that we have today. We still use gold in making that jewelry. Next, you have where the Spanish colonies were. So they were settled mainly in the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. That's why you still have such a heavy Spanish influence to this day. That's why a lot of those countries still speak Spanish. So that is where their large influence comes from. The Spanish conquistadors, they conquered and controlled the native populations. Not exactly a pleasant relationship between the two. So there you have Spain. Think more southern. So you've got southern North America, Central America, and then South America. Next, we've got France. France went ahead and sent explorers to North America in order to find a water route to Asia. Why did we want to go to Asia? They wanted to get a quicker route for trade. Remember, it's all about trade. If you think about it, from France all the way over to Asia for trading on land, that's a heck of a lot of time to spend trading things. And also, it's a lot of time to send a ship all the way from France, all the way down and around the tip of Africa, over to Asia. So they were looking for a quicker route all the way to Asia to get the goods. So the French exploration is where they went to Canada. Most of where they looked. They didn't lead to large-scale immigration. Most of the French didn't come over. The French decided to set up trading posts, but they didn't come to settle. Because if you think about France as a country, they had a lot more space than Spain or England did. So they weren't really looking to stretch out so much. They were looking for the resources and to give Christianity further to these natives. The French settlers were very interested in making money through the fur trade. Think beaver, bear, all of those pelts. They would be at these trading posts and get sent back over to France in order to be sold. Next, you have England. So the very first English settlements in North America were located on the east coast of what is now the U.S., so where we are. Where we are was basically settled by the English, which is why we largely speak English. Think back to South America, Central America, that's where the Spanish settled. They speak Spanish there. If you go up into Canada, think French Quebec, that is why they speak French, because it was settled by the French. So they came to where we are now, and really it was where we are now. Virginia was the first place that the English landed. Think Jamestown. Now, like the Spanish, the English colonies took land away from the native populations and led to conflict and violence. The French, because they didn't come and settle in large numbers, they tended to get along a lot better with the Native Americans than the English did. So that was a huge benefit for the French. They were able to do a lot more things thanks to the help of the Native Americans. The English, think back to the movie Pocahontas. Not greatly historically accurate, but think about the way that they treated the Native Americans. They were like, oh, savages. We must tame the savages. That's the way the English and the Spanish really took to looking at the natives. So you got the Columbian Exchange here. So this is, to put it in really blunt terms, the exchange of seeds, goods, and ideas between Africa, Asia, and Europe and the Americas. So it just created this big triangle, and largely it was sending raw goods and materials from the Americas over to Europe and getting manufactured goods back from Europe to the Americas. So it spurred this whole trade movement across the Atlantic Ocean. Now your interactions among the Europeans and the Native Americans. The French, they didn't compete for land, so that is a big no competition for land, and had a very positive relationship with the American Indians, as I was just saying. Now, the English and the Spanish often took land from the Native Americans and found a lot of violence with it. They had a very negative relationship with the American Indians, and that led to a lot of problems, bloodshed, and a lot of not good, and a lot of hard feelings that are still felt to this day because of how we treated them. More interactions between the Europeans and Native Americans. The American Indians lost their traditional territories because they were kicked off of their own land, and then they fell victim to a lot of diseases carried from Europe. A lot of historians say that a lot of the diseases that we brought, yes, it killed off a large portion of the population, but also they had their own diseases that they were going through prior to us getting there, so it was kind of a perfect storm for the Native Americans that just decimated their population, absolutely destroyed it. But we can take a lot of blame for that. So now we go to interactions among the Europeans and Africans. There was a lot of plant-based agriculture in the southern colonies in the Caribbean. So think about those big plantations, those big farms. That led to the need for a lot of cheap labor. Where are we going to get labor from? So they turned to try and answer this. First, they tried to meet these needs with indentured servants. So these are poor people from England, Scotland, Ireland, who worked for a set amount of time, usually about 7 years, in return for their passage from Europe or relief from their debt. So basically what people would do is they would say, oh, you know what? We need workers. So let's go look in the slums of England, Scotland, and Ireland, and see if some poor sap is going to be willing to A, make the voyage and potentially survive the voyage, and then work for us for a set amount of time. Seems like a pretty good idea. Now, we all know it didn't work, so now we are left with the growth of large-scale agriculture in these southern and Caribbean colonies. So think Virginia. Virginia held the biggest number of slaves prior to the Civil War. I mean, we had a ton of slaves here. Then you've got your other colonies: North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, Georgia. Those big original colonies, they had big agriculture coming out of them. What did they have? They had tobacco. They had cotton working on them. You have all these different types of plants that are very necessary towards creating manufactured goods, so we can send them right on back to Europe. Well, we need a really big labor source, so we look to slaves. Indentured servitude really kind of went by the wayside in the mid-1600s, and slavery overtook it. The first Africans were brought against their will to Jamestown in 1619 in order to work on the tobacco plantations. So we started slavery in the New World very early, and it grew very, very quickly. Okay, so this is the end of this note set. Study your notes and have a good time.